Hi, and welcome Beyond the Racing Line, the Formula One podcast by fans, for fans. We saw a sprint race weekend in Belgium over the weekend, and it was a weekend of two very different races. And to discuss everything that occurred, Tristan Pocock is here with me for the last recording in this very special studio.
In the studio.
Yes.
The studio.
We're moving studios.
We are. Are you emotional?
No. No.
It's all right. It's fine.
No, Beyond the Racing Line's on the move. And, I think it'll be for the better.
To bigger and better premises.
Yeah, well, I'm a little concerned.
Yeah,
because the new studio is not kitted out at all yet.
Right.
And so we might have a little in between it being sorted and whatnot.
Oh, we could have like a kid-out party.
We might. Well, we could.
Oh.
We could. Or I've got a feeling we might have a couple of sessions inside a different area.
That is fine. That is fine.
But so will be the last one. How did you enjoy the Belgium race weekend? We're a couple of days late, which
everyone.
Leaves business life, unfortunately, leaves us a little bit detached from the race weekend in terms of you can now look back on it with completely fresh eyes.
We can, yeah.
Usually by the time we're recording, we're still slightly tired from the ridiculous times
and
we
sort
have to watch.
It's hectic, isn't it? Because we watch it and then we enjoy it, and then it's all social media, and then we get all the news, and it's a pretty hectic 24 hours, really, on a Monday night, isn't it, before we get stuck into it?
Yep, it really is.
How do I enjoy it? Race ranking, or just in general?
Yeah, go on, give us both.
I think just
overall weekend.
Overall weekend, great. Overall weekend ranking, 8.
Okay.
8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
We're gonna drum down on this.
Oh, okay.
And what about the race? And we're going to talk Grand Prix.
And then Sunday's event. 7.
Oh, as high as 7.
Yeah, it was good.
Interesting.
It was good.
I thought you might have been a little bit down on it.
No.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the weekend.
Yeah.
But race, I'm going to go. No, I think it's a 6.5.
6.5. Well, it's not that far up for 7, really, is it?
No, it's not in actual fact,
No.
Well, you've been a little bit more critical than I have this year, so I thought you might have been down on this.
That's correct.
One.
No, but I have seen a lot of just fan engagement in general. Pretty flat on the weekend. Like our 3-word summary on Sunday night was generally just boring.
Yeah.
Boring. I'll see if I can get that up really quickly. But yeah, a lot of people. Which, I love Spa. We talked about that the week before. Mm-hmm. Just how good Spa is.
Yep.
And we love it. And it just, we had wet, we had dry, we had McLaren. So here's a couple of it. A snooze fest. I fell asleep. Race for second. Red Bull everything. Needed more rain. Glenda Sanders. Load of crap.
She doesn't hold back.
No.
And I like that about her.
Do you know,
do I know who she is?
Do you know Glenda?
No, but
but you feel like you do.
Her comments,
resonate with you.
They do, yeah, they really do, and they generally disagree with me. But
yeah,
there's an amount that I like about that.
Yeah, which is good. Also, I'll just throw this in here. We've put up a mid-season report card on our social media. So if you're listening, I've put the teams one up. Yep. So just would be keen for some fan interaction on that. We've had a few people already.
There will be
throw their hat in the ring.
There will be an episode on that.
Yep, and we'll have a driver one too coming out in the next couple of days.
Yep.
So yeah,
there'll be some mini episodes coming out over the summer break.
Yes. So if you'd like to feature in those, get on social media, jump on the mid-season report card post for your teams, rank the teams A+ to F. Mm-hmm. However else, if you've got a different ranking system, go for it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we'd just love to know people's thoughts on that one before we pull the trigger on the driver one as well.
So Belgium was, as you said, it was rainy, and there was some real fears that we were going to lose the weekend due to rain, but we did in the end, which was fantastic to see. And then so we ended up getting a race of 2 halves, I found, for the weekend, which it felt more detached this weekend than I've sort of seen before. And it was a really interesting scenario. But before we get into all that seriousness, we've got everything coming, but we do have a wonderful opening question. So our Sam's our opening question giver. It's a recorded message.
We love our audio opening questions.
Absolutely.
And thank you. We had a couple of people jump in over the weekend saying they've got it, or,
Paul sent out the call to everyone. He challenged everyone, go and get involved. And I like the way that he did that, because we've had some people. But the problem with this is, I feel like I've lost a couple.
Oh.
A couple of recordings may have gone missing. I don't know. So can you let me know if I've misplaced yours, if yours doesn't appear here, because I felt like we had a couple up our sleeve and I seem to have lost some.
Yeah.
But we're going with this one. So the best way to send them in is on Facebook Messenger. Now, if you don't have access to Facebook Messenger, go about the other ways. There's a couple of messages I just can't make play on Instagram. The message system on Instagram, it just doesn't seem to want to play. I don't know why.
Yep.
So Facebook Messenger seems to go well, and the audio quality is fantastic. I'm going to give you Sam's opening question now.
How's it going, guys? Sam here from Through an Amateur's Eyes. After the Hungarian Grand Prix talk of how you want Brittany Rosberg and Helmut Marko out of the sport, it sounded like you wanted to have a bit of a game of Survivor. So I'm proposing Drive to Survivor. So in our reality show, we need some heroes and villains because that's one of the things they do. So for the villains team, we've got Helmut Marko and Brittany Rosberg on the villains team. I'd also like to propose that we add Flavio Briatore from the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix. And on the hero side, I'd like to add Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris from their heyday in McLaren when they were having fun. And I'd also like to add the fire marshal that pulled Romain Grosjean out of the fiery wreck at Bahrain. So be specific with what time period of character you want, whether they're drivers, team principals, random characters of Formula One. Add them to the heroes or the villain side for Drive to Survivor. Cheers.
Rightio, great question. Thank you, Sam, for that question.
Very good question.
You ever watched Survivor?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it.
Really?
I may have watched maybe the first season, but I haven't seen anything since. And so I'm assuming it's fairly straightforward. You've got heroes and villains, you've got good guys and bad guys.
It's evolved into different sort of categories now, I think, just to keep it fresh, rather than just two teams. But there is a heroes and villains sort of series, and you get all-stars and all that kind of stuff.
All right. Do you want to put together a heroes team or a villains team?
I kind of had a bit of a thought that I've got a hero and a villain.
Oh, so we're going to add a team, make a team together?
I was thinking, I've got a hero and a villain that would go really well together.
Ooh.
So I could add a hero and add a villain, and knowing that in the Survivor sort of cauldron that they would actually clash, and it would really enhance the TV show.
I see how this works. All right.
Put in my TV producer hat
Go on.
Which I've never done before.
Make it happen.
All right, so for the heroes side, I'm going to put 2000 and... I just had the year. I want to say 16, but I feel like that's not right.
Just go with it.
It is 2016. Gee, it feels like forever ago. 2016 Ferrari Seb Vettel onto the heroes. With the 2016 Danny Kvyat, the torpedo from Sochi.
I don't mind it.
Into the villains.
I don't mind it.
Yep.
That's quite good.
Yep, good. Thanks.
Quite good.
Good. I'm quite happy with myself with that.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll go along with those lines then.
You do it.
I like where you've taken this question. Yep. I'm going to go the Brittany Rosberg, who parked it in qualifying.
Oh.
And I'm going to go the Lewis Hamilton as the good guy in that qualifying session. What year was that? That was the year he won it, wasn't it?
That was the year he won it.
I can't remember what year that was. But the year Brittany Rosberg won a world championship, and possibly before he turned into a prick.
Yeah, 2016.
Yep. All right, you got another one?
Yep.
Let's go the ultimate heroes and villains. I like this.
All right, cool. All right, so I'm going to go 2018 Max Verstappen. I'm going to go heroes.
Okay.
With the 2018 Esteban Ocon into the villains from Brazil.
Oh, really? You reckon Max is the hero here?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think he is.
Ocon unlapped himself.
I don't like Ocon.
I like the way
he was in the way.
Yeah.
He was in the way.
Oh, yeah, look,
he was in the way and he wrecked it.
Crushed, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I know, and there'll be people thinking that no, you've got that wrong.
Yeah, he did the pushing, but
wrong way around. No.
Oh, well, fair enough.
No.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Look, and then probably last one. Oh man, Jos Verstappen as a villain.
Okay.
And the hero against Jos, I'm going to go James Allison.
Right.
James Allison could come across as one of the nicest guys ever. Now, these two don't really have a rivalry, but Jos comes across as the biggest arse getting around, doesn't he? There's no smiles, and James Allison's all smiles, and he's calm and collected, whereas Jos is happy to push people around and make things happen for himself. So, yeah, I think they're a nice combo. They don't necessarily have the rivalry themselves, but they're a nice combo.
Oh, I'm going to give you one more.
Oh, you want one more?
I'll give you one more.
Okay.
One more. I'm going to add to the villains. I'm going to add the 2007 McLaren Fernando Alonso from Canada. And I don't know about hero, but I'll put him in the heroes, but I will put Ron Dennis into the heroes.
Why?
If you've ever seen the footage of that after he, for those that don't know, they had Alonso that deliberately sat in the pit box in Canada in 2007 and stopped Hamilton from crossing the line to take pole in Canada, and then he was obviously reprimanded after that.
So why Ron Dennis is a hero?
Because, what Fernando did was wrong, like in every sense of the word.
Yeah,
like it breaks my heart to say
Lewis
that.
not let him out or something like that?
Well,
there was something
I
that
don't
happened
know.
before that.
Yeah, I don't
know. That
know.
was retaliation for Lewis not leading him out. So
he shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have sat in the pit box. He knew exactly what he was doing. He's a smart man. But then Ron Dennis went over. There's a little bit of footage afterwards of Ron Dennis storming out of the garage, going straight over to Fernando's trainer, ripping his headphones off and going, "Come with me," and storming them, marching them both upstairs into, I guess, the motorhome, for a better word. So,
okay.
So I see Ron as like the
like
hero.
The disciplinarian.
He's come in and gone, "No way, I'm not having that." And I mean, Ron Dennis is a hard ass. So anyway, that's it.
I like it.
Oh, it's a good question. It's a good question. I feel I'm enjoying it the more I get into it.
Oh, there you go. So thank you very, very much. It was, it is wonderful to hear these questions coming in. But like I say, try and get them onto the Facebook Messenger. It can be a little bit tricky to collate them if they're all in different places. So I do appreciate it if they're there. If not, I'll do my very best, I promise. Race review. So we've got 2 races to review here, really.
All right, sprint and standard.
Yep, sprint and standard. And we had the sprint shootout, which saw Verstappen take it out in changing conditions, I think it was. If we're thinking back, so qualifying for the race was on the Friday.
Yep. How do you feel about that? Do you think it's still in the wrong order?
Yeah, I think it's
good.
I think it's ridiculous.
It must change. It must change. It must change.
What's your latest opinion on the sprint races in general?
I hate them.
Even though you gave the weekend an 8.
It's just...
See, the weekend would not have got an 8, anywhere near an 8.
No, I know, but it wasn't, again, it's not enough. And you know what was worse about this one? Is that we sat 4 laps behind the safety car, so the sprint race was 11 laps.
Oh, see,
it was less.
I've got a surprising take on this.
Do you really? All of your takes are quite surprising.
Yeah, well, that's because I speak sense. But yes, so the weekend got an 8.
It did.
But you don't like the sprint format?
No.
At all?
No.
There's a part of me that agrees with you here.
Good.
Which does my head in a little bit. No, look, I can't take the disconnect of the 2 separate events.
No.
I don't want a race weekend where there are 2 different races happening that aren't connected in any way.
No, they're not.
And that annoys me. I actually really liked the idea of this qualifying race is going to set up the race. I sort of can understand that, we want to see cars out of order, and I like seeing cars out of order on a start grid, and you don't. You just want to see everyone.
I don't mind the odd runner out of order if it's naturally out of order. It's not on forced
racing.
I'm forced out of order.
But yeah, so I can understand that part of it, but it just feels so strange to have a disconnected race because what we're doing here is we're going back and we're like, right, there's a sprint shootout and a race that happened all on the Saturday, which has no connection to anything else.
No.
And it almost feels like it happened on a different weekend, but we saw our man Oscar, Aussie Oscar Piastri, qualifying in second, and it was one of the most superb performances from a rookie we've seen, I'm going to say since... maybe Lewis Hamilton.
That's not a bad call at all.
Has there been a rookie that's performed quite as well in a particular race?
Yep.
Since Hamilton? Because Max, I don't think he got onto the front row
in rookie year. Not... Well, I mean, he won on debut for Red Bull, But
is that in his rookie year? Or had he already done
no,
it?
not in his rookie year.
Yeah.
So, in a first year, I mean, you've got Seb in the Toro Rosso, but again, it's not really... Can you even really count that as a rookie year? I don't know, because he had the time of the BMW.
No.
But still, it was like that. I think you would need to... I mean, they're the real feel-good stories, isn't it? Like Lewis nearly winning in Australia on debut. You've got Seb winning in the Toro Rosso. You've got stuff like... You got Max winning on debut for Red Bull.
Yep.
Imagine if Oscar went and won. And yes, I mean, I say only a sprint race. But if you had won that sprint race, like... Jeez, we'd be lauding him even more than what the F1 world currently is.
One of the things I love about the sprint race is the race doesn't get untangled. You know what I mean? Like there's still that he's in this position, and it doesn't get all untangled with the teams are going to work it out eventually, and they're going to sort themselves out eventually. Yeah, and I quite like that it is a sprint to see if you can keep your position to get to the end, and I quite like that about this race. So. We saw Max obviously win the shootout, and then for the sprint race, we saw Max obviously win the sprint race from a very handy position.
There's really not much we didn't see Max win, is there?
No, and there was a bit of confusion around whether he gets the penalty for the sprint race or for the actual Grand Prix because of the gearbox change. But that sort of cemented it for him. But then we did see Pierre Gasly, as Daniel Ricciardo calls him. I love it so much that whenever I see that, I was like, so fun. Because then Gasly's calling him Ricciardo.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of the things they like to do.
Yeah, good. Don't mind that.
It's quite fun. So we saw him sort of move up the order into third. And so, like what I was saying, is it's just the sprint allows for that short moment, and it's just like, can I get there? And I thought it was actually the right amount of time.
Yep.
I wonder whether our sprint races are running a little bit too long, and they are untangling a little bit.
Too long for the sprint?
Yeah, which I know, like, I'm with you, I want a little bit more.
Yeah.
But you don't get... Like, by the time you get to 17 laps, there seems to have been like, everyone's sort of found the natural order.
Yeah, okay.
Whereas I think if you can tangle up that qualifying grid and get them to really shoot to the line of a sprint race, I think there's some excitement in that.
Okay.
And then we also saw our man Dan into 10th position. Now, it wasn't a points playing position.
But it was a fabulous drive.
Effort, wasn't it?
It was a fabulous drive, and he qualified really, really well too in the sprint shootout. So all signs pointed to great things for Dan across the race weekend.
Ran long, and that was the key for Dan in this one. And then we move into a completely different scenario of the weekend, where there's a different qualifying. That all happened on Friday, and then you got to almost reset your brain into Grand Prix mode. Yep. I would still have the way that we set it up before. I'd launch from qualifying for sprint into the sprint, which also is part of the qualifying for the main race. Which you'd lose a qualifying session, and I like a qualifying session, but
me too.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd do is I'd move everything on a Friday.
Yep.
I'll just entertain on Friday, but I can't. Yeah, that doesn't make sense either. One other suggestion.
Yep.
Felt like we watched qualifying twice.
Yeah.
Which we did.
I was going to say we did.
Should we change up the sprint? If we're doing a completely different race weekend, should we change up the sprint race weekend format into the shootout into something else?
Like just a different style.
Yep, different format for that one.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like, there's a couple of less minutes enough. Like, is that making it
I'm with you.
Enough?
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Because if you think about,
it just feels a bit more the same. You've done it on Friday already, which is the main event. Yeah. And now we go and do another one just the day after, and everything's a bit shorter.
Because all it really does is it just reduces that rest period. You know, in just standard qualifying where we're in Q3 and you do your cider, you do your fly, you come in, you sit down for a couple of minutes and just get ready to go again. Yep. All we're doing is just taking away that sit down, get ready component of it. So, look, I don't mind that. It's just a different format. But
if we're going to do something completely different on the Saturday, let's do something completely different. Let's not just sort of do a little bit the same.
Yeah.
Let's just make it different.
Yeah.
And so I think that could be interesting. I think it could be a really interesting format that. If you did the top 20 shootout. Always weather is an issue in these things. Yep. But I tell you what, like, that might be a nice way to mix up the grid.
Maybe just
for the sprint format.
Yep. So, just fortunate enough to be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think that they'd probably have to have some things up their sleeve.
Would you run it in practice order?
No, I don't think I would.
Like, because you wouldn't want to run it in championship order. Because let's say it's dry. Let's say it starts wet, and it finishes dry. Right, and you put Max in on the wets, and then you have K-Mag out on the dries. I don't like that. You couldn't have it any other order. But if you wanted to make practice a little bit more valuable, you could run, if you're going to have a top 20 shootout, you could do it in the order of practice 1.
Does that turn... Yeah, I guess so. Because it doesn't put a lot of emphasis on practice,
but it just says,
Okay,
let's say you finish your practice runs and you're like,
yeah, I like that.
If we're looking at the weather, midway it's going to be changeable.
I like that.
Let's just have another quick double.
What you don't see in that format is the track rubber in the same way.
No, that's right.
Because there's only one car on track. So
and we still had F2 and F3 and the Porsche Cup as well that was going around too.
But generally in a qualifying session, you see that track ramp up because there's 20 cars rotating 5 or 6 times, whereas in this situation, you're only seeing 20 cars rotating 3 times, an out lap, a quali lap, and an in lap. And those out laps and quali laps aren't really laying rubber down, so it's not going to really intensify too much more. I just think maybe changing it up a little bit would have been helpful. But then on the race weekend for the Sunday, we got a completely dry race. There was a little sprinkling, which we were like, oh, here we go.
Yep.
And my favourite thing in racing is to get some rain mid-race.
Mid-race, yep.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And I thought, here we go. But no, it didn't quite intensify to the point where they needed to come in for tyres.
Definitely not.
But then we just saw generally Max come from 6th. The prediction was he was going to be in front by lap 4 or 5. And that was way out. I think it was lap 17. But he certainly got the job done and then disappeared into the distance on his teammate and everybody else in the field.
I thought lap 17 was quite late to be taking the lead.
Yeah, oh look, I tend to agree with you.
How critical is that?
Yeah.
Considering he was 4th after with the end of the Camel Straight, he was 4th, or leading into it.
So we're in agreement that he's dud of the day.
He's very much not dud of the day.
No.
But
yeah, I mean, it was... I thought 4 or 5 seemed a bit early because his teammate was on the front row, and so his teammate was obviously going to disappear into the distance. But yeah, he just didn't disappear far enough. Obviously, we saw Perez start at the front and finish in 2nd position. It was about time that Perez had a race that sort of showed what he's worth and. Yeah, he would have been a big sigh of relief, I guess, in the end, considering that even for the sprint race, he had a DNF. So yeah, it was about time that he got that result. But yeah, I don't know. Like, is there anything else you want to talk about, Max? I mean, he broke a record.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
No.
It's just, yeah. It's just,
we're just in awe. We're just in awe, aren't we? Just looking at the stats compared to Checo, right? So if you look at just to highlight how he's going at the moment in terms of the race weekends. For races, it's 10-2. So if we're looking at Max v Checo, this is just an absolute domination. It's 10-2. Qualifying, it's 10-2. Points, it's 314 to 189. Podiums is 12-7. That's not a huge disparity there. And best race finishes is they've both obviously had a win. Highest grid position is first, and neither have DNF'd.
Yeah.
Neither have DNF. Now, that's just in your standard race format, not sprint. So anyway, but you look at that 10-2. 10-2, that's huge. It's such a monstrous gap.
Was Perez being overtaken and beaten by 22 seconds, was that a plus in his category?
No.
Or was that still a knock on him?
It's still a knock. 22 seconds. I mean, I know Max and that machine is just fitting like a glove at the moment. But 22 seconds, it's a pit stop. It's just...
The thing for me is
big.
Perez had the lead, so it wasn't like he was caught in traffic. It wasn't like he was having some troubles and working his way through the field. He had the lead. He had the open air. It wasn't like he was damaging his tyres. And the man still had no answers for this, though. This absolute legend. I mean, he is just... Oh, man, he's in an absolute league of his own at the moment.
What did you make of Max and Jean-Pierre Lambassi
the interactions throughout the whole weekend.
Yeah, because I've not heard anything like that before. It was spicy. And then listening to Christian Horner say that that's sort of what they're like. They're like a bit of an old married couple. I can't think of any other time outside of this race weekend where we've heard such a real sort of knife edge. We've heard Max, but to have...
I like the pushback on him.
Yeah.
And there was an air of confidence, but there was also a little point of it was like, don't disrespect us. You're starting to speak like you're disrespecting us, like it's only you.
Yeah.
This is a team game. Now, and it wasn't, I didn't think Max was being disrespectful.
No, neither did I.
But it was like, he was like, you know what, like, this is a team game. You trust us when we win. You trust us where we're in this point now too.
Even I think it was Q2 where he scraped through in 10th.
Yep.
And he was like, but what I loved is I loved both sides of it. I love Max's criticism of
thinking about those moments,
the process that didn't go right, and then for Jean-Pierre to come back and say, actually, no. How will if we had gone out and done another run and you had been low on energy, how would that have gone when you come back to went to the shed? So, but I love that it's that constant pursuit of perfection is what we're sort of starting to see at the moment with Max. He's not happy with going through a 10th, which I mean it doesn't really matter if you go through a 10th because you're through. But for him, it's so important that the process and all the procedures and the way that they go about it is correct. And I feel like if he had been 10th and the process had have been followed to the letter, he actually would have been all right. And I love that. And that's that knife edge that we always talk about, the difference between a good and a great and just a champion of the world. And that's...
Yeah, and I think it speaks volumes for the team
just
to be able to go and hit him back with... Well, if you had done that, we wouldn't have been able to get through. And I like that there's strength there. But there's also respect in that strength. It wasn't like Max was like he didn't throw all the toys out of his cot. It was like, all right, I've hit you with it. You've hit me back. I like it. Let's get on with it. And that's what they did.
You hear it a little bit with Bono and Lewis, but not as blunt, do you?
No. Well, generally there's a little bit of it's a bit of whining. So it's like, come on, man, cut out the whining.
Yeah, and then Bono's sort of more playing peacekeeper. But these two, it was punch for punch. But yeah, I liked it. But as I was saying, I was sort of racking my brain thinking, geez, I'm not sure if I've ever heard that, I guess, as brutal or as frequently as what we heard on the weekend.
It was interesting. I liked it. I thought it was nice to be given that as well. Because it feels like since they removed the whole... We'll hear what they talk to the race director about. We haven't got as much. Have you missed that at all? Hearing them talk to the race director?
Not at all.
No, I haven't either. I thought I would, but I really haven't.
No.
Charles Leclerc. Perez under any pressure that Perez is going to disappear during this long weekend. Actually, before we get to Charles.
Disappear in what sense?
As in someone sneaks into his house late at night and mugs him, kidnaps him, takes him off to a little place where Toro Rosso's went to die.
Interesting you say that, because Helmut Marko's comments over the race weekend were, as long as he is in second position in the championship, his seat is safe. So if you look at the title points at the moment, which you would think, he's pretty safe. You've got Alonso sitting there on 149, so it's exactly 40 points behind. Now, ask us 5 weeks ago, is that going to be caught? And you would say,
possibly,
there's possibly a huge chance. Right now, the Aston have successfully been able to engineer a slower vehicle, which God knows how. But you've got Lewis now hanging around there in 148. So it's only 41 off. So through some miracle, if you have a Lewis win or a Fernando win, or even just a second. Sorry, I shouldn't say win, because Max is going to win.
That ain't happening.
It's a second. All right? So let's say you have a Fernando second or a Lewis second, and Perez has a DNF. Like, suddenly you're in the danger zone of 20 points, and it only takes a weekend here or there to drop, because both of them are... I mean, Fernando had a surprising weekend, but Lewis is having good weekends here and there and everywhere, and just doing enough to collect bulk points when they're available. So... I don't know, it's just something to keep an eye on.
There's no guarantees on next year.
There's no...
I think this year
I don't think so.
is safe.
Yeah.
Even though Horner said, we're looking at the 2025, I don't think there's any guarantees for next year. This year, I think, is safe. I mean, that'd be crazy to go and give away a second driver. I mean, not that they get anything or it means anything, but that'd be crazy to give that away. And
I think that's probably it. It may be as soon as that's lost.
Yeah. Or as soon as it's lost or as soon as it's won, potentially.
Well, yeah, as soon as it's won.
Even if he wins it this year, I think that there could be that problem.
And we know Max is really not going to do anything to help him to get second. We saw that last year.
Oh, yeah.
He needed just a couple of points, and Max said, no way.
I can guarantee Max wants Ricciardo in that car.
I think so, too.
And he'll probably be doing whatever he can.
I said last week Perez is gone, so I'm kind of going to stand by that.
Yep. Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari.
Charles, third podium of the year. 99 points, just sneaking along nicely at fifth. Sort of feels like they started pretty well. They took a step back, and now they're almost in recovery mode.
Yep.
Or rebuild mode.
Yep.
And along the way, you would kind of think there'll be circuits where they'll grab the odd third place, maybe here or there, and he might sneak a pole because he can. He's got it in him. If you think about who has got the capacity to beat Max to pole, you would say Lewis and possibly Charles.
Yep.
Because he's done it in the past. So
he is very good on a one lap.
He's good over a one lap. So they're the two drivers that can take it to him over a quali lap.
Yep.
And I think they're in recovery mode at the moment, and Charles is certainly leading the way.
Pretty decent result. This is a track that it likes some really high speed, absolutely. But there are the other challenges, and it was probably a decent sign to see that Ferrari were competitive here.
The tyre deg was a little bit more under control,
which
didn't run that
while
hard.
It was warm. They certainly talked about the fact that it was warm there.
Yep.
It certainly wasn't typical summer of Europe, I don't think.
That's correct.
Yeah. Lewis in fourth position.
Yeah, nice drive. He's on top of that Mercedes at the moment, and he is it's gone under the radar. He's all over George. Like, he is hands down, you would say the last month, he's absolutely got him covered in every way, shape and form. Practice, quali, race, everything.
We saw the same thing last year. George came out of the blocks firing, and everyone was talking about Lewis and where's Lewis gone.
Yep.
And Lewis came through about mid-year, started coming back through and asserting his dominance.
Yep.
And, so I agree. We've seen that as well. I don't think George is doing a particularly poor job. There's just a little bit of spark missing from George's performances, I reckon.
Yeah.
Fernando Alonso, one of my good friends.
Wow.
One of my good friends said, "Is it a very Fernando Alonso thing to go missing mid-season?" And I had to give it a good little think.
Okay.
You know what?
Yep.
There is a little bit of that. Fernando comes out of the blocks firing.
Yep.
And surprises us all.
Yep.
And then things take a downward turn. And we've always put it down to relationships. Things aren't going well at the team. But is there a Fernando issue here?
I don't think so.
Is there any Fernando issues, or is the man perfect?
He is pretty much perfect.
Okay, yeah, so you wouldn't agree with anything.
Look, let's be honest. The Aston has gone backwards. They were flying, they've added upgrades, and the upgrades have not done what they wanted them to do. So I was listening to F1 Nation on Tuesday night, and they were talking to Mike Crack, and he said there are more upgrades
I was going to say, there's more.
There's more coming.
And they're the ones that they're waiting on, I believe.
Yeah.
These ones are, sorry to interrupt you, these ones are a little bit like the McLaren ones that came that didn't really bring the performance. These ones are to set up for the performance, I believe, is the way that they're describing it. Is that right?
Okay, I think so. I think it is. So anyway, they're looking at they're bringing those in, they're focusing on the current year. He said, I'm not focusing on 2024, that's not happening. We will be continuing with these upgrades to get back to where we were. So I wonder if they're going to reverse engineer or take away from what they've put on, perhaps. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
It feels like it could be as simple as that, really, in my mind. You go and put a component on, you've gone backwards.
Well, yeah, the way it was explained, well, McLaren did it very much so. So they put on some updates, but they didn't actually expect time to come from this. The updates they required to put them on was to get some information out of them, so then they can put on the next part. And I believe that this is sort of the situation they're in. They're putting a few things on in the preparation for after the summer break. Then the next parts are going to come.
Okay.
It'll be a watch space, though, won't it? Because they have been severely overtaken.
Yes, they have. They have.
We've spoken about George. He's just gone backwards slightly. There was an incident with Perez and George in the sprint race. Thoughts on that one? There was a wing. Sorry, was that Lewis? No, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Was it Lewis or George? No, I can't remember. No, it was George.
Yeah,
forever ago.
Yeah.
Was there a penalty required? They put it down
really.
to racing incident, but
really.
Perez ended up with a big hole in his side pod.
No, racing incident. Racing incident for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why? Tell me
Hamilton,
more.
sorry, you're right. Hamilton.
Was Hamilton?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, side by side, there was plenty of room. Nothing was aggressive in terms of the way that they went about their racing. Lewis had racing line. Checo was going for the move around the outside, which, I mean, it works. It really, really does. It's certainly not a corner through there where you can't take a wider line and pass on the outside. Lewis didn't really lose a lot of wash downforce. He didn't sort of slide or deliberately turn his wheel in to open the wheel. It was just a coming together of someone on the line, someone going around. There wasn't quite enough room. I've seen stuff on social media over the last couple of days with people, he gave there's 4 car lengths on the inside. Yeah, there is 4 car lengths on the inside because it's not the racing line through that apex and out of the corner.
Is there anything about, though, Perez didn't have any more room on the outside. So Perez didn't have any more room on the outside,
yep.
And Lewis is trying to make the move happen.
Yep.
Does he have a right to end his race?
At some stage, you have to recognise that you have lost the corner, and as a driver, you think to yourself, do I hold on to this one knowing that I could go into the gravel or I could have damage, or do I back out of it and I come back in a couple of laps' time and I take that
And so
back?
you're saying that's what Lewis should have done?
I think that's what Checo should have done, actually. I'm totally okay with Lewis's move.
Checo had the lead and had the line.
Lewis was making the pass on the inside, and I'm okay with that. I really am.
But
I
find that really unusual. So he didn't have the lead.
No.
He didn't have the pass made.
No, but Lewis...
Checo didn't have any more space and was on the racing line, and you think Checo should have been surrendering the corner?
He came into the corner slow with a slide, so he needs to recognise that he's already lost it.
Oh, wow. No, I completely disagree.
Okay.
I think Lewis should have picked up a penalty. Oh. I don't know what the penalty is. I mean, if you place this moment into the Max Lewis 2021 season, when we saw plenty of these, and towards the end they definitely would have been penalising because they let it go for too far. And I think that was Lewis was at fault for Perez didn't have anywhere to go. He's not going to brake because Lewis is making an overtake, and Lewis crashed into him. It was up to Lewis to control that car so it didn't veer into Perez.
That's where I think he did control it. It just was a coming together. He didn't lose.
He crashed into the car,
but he didn't lose control of it. It was just a coming together, a really slow, gradual coming together.
So he deliberately crashed into the car. If he didn't lose control,
find it and look at it while we're talking about. It was just a slow, controlled coming together.
If he either crashed into him out of control, or he deliberately did it. Then
no, he didn't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like if he didn't think, all right, I'm going to crash into the side of him. So he didn't have control of his car. If Perez had heaps of room on the outside, or even a little bit more room on the outside, I'm with you. It would be a racing incident because Perez had somewhere to go.
Yep.
But you can't leave Perez with nowhere to go and then you crash into him. Do you know? I just think I was baffled that wasn't the scenario given. Did he get a penalty for it in the end?
He did.
He did. Yeah. And I think that's the right amount. Some were calling for more, but I don't think you can give more for that because there is racing elements there, and you can't expect that just because Perez has retired, and which is why the calls were for more.
Yeah.
Just because he's retired, you give more of a penalty, but if Perez didn't have anywhere to go, you can't have a car drive into the side of you. You're turning your computer to me. This is bad podcasting.
I know it's bad podcasting, but I'm showing you if you're watching where they are. This is what I'm saying. Like, he comes into it slow.
Look at how wide Perez has to be.
Slow, but he's already out there. Look at the door that's open. He's already alongside.
Yeah,
There's the apex. You have to give that up.
No
You have
way.
to give that up and go, nah, I've lost this.
Not
there was
even
nowhere
close.
else that was coming. He should not have been there, and he has to give that up.
Not even
Get in touch with us while you're listening to this right now. Inbox us and tell us who do you feel is at fault.
Not great podcasting. What we did
terrific podcasting.
Yeah. So no,
He
I'm in
has to let
complete
that go.
disagreement.
He has to let that go.
Tell me the driver that's going to let it go. Name the driver.
Name someone who would openly go recognise I've lost this corner and I can't make it.
Yep.
Alonso.
No. There would not be one piece of evidence that Alonso would ever do that.
There would be plenty. Anyway, get in touch with us. Damn.
But how's he to know that he's going to be crashed into?
He doesn't know he's going to be crashed into.
The
door is open.
And the British media,
come on in.
It was so funny because you go and read any publication, and if it came from England, it was all that side, and if it came from the rest of the world, it was all that side. No. Apparently, you're English. I bet you put that ball in that box for the Poms to go and then bowl us out.
I saw that.
I saw that. Dirty man.
It's only the same ball, doesn't it?
Lando Norris.
Look, a little bit of a good weekend on Friday. Rougher sort of going for the rest of the weekend, wasn't it? The McLaren boys in general, they gambled on the wet, and while it worked early weekend, it all come undone at the end of the weekend.
Out-qualified by his teammate both times.
Fabulous.
Yeah, which was, Norris, we rate highly. I assume you rate him really highly.
I do, yeah.
We're going to actually go through this over the break. But, after the last bit, I don't know. But we rate him incredibly highly, and particularly in this car.
Yep.
I'm not sure this car has lost all its characteristics. Lando seems to think it hasn't, it's just faster.
Yeah.
So we do rate him really highly. And so for Piastri to out-qualify him both times on this track, I thought, was a really great effort.
Yep.
So I'm almost going to put Norris in you know what? He didn't have his best weekend. He didn't get smashed by his teammate.
No, but he got beaten.
Wasn't his best weekend.
No.
And while he beat him in the race eventually, that was not due to necessarily Oscar, but
no, very true.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. It'll be one to watch now. We haven't seen Norris under pressure since Sainz, and Norris and Sainz had this really beautiful relationship.
Yep.
I wonder whether having a younger driver come in and put a bit of pressure on him now. Yep. I wonder if we'll see a different Norris, or do you think the Norris that we get is just going to be that one? I think he's the modern day driver.
I think Yeah, I think that's it. I think this is the Lando that we get, and obviously Oscar is a totally different beast to what Dan was.
Yep.
And so we're seeing a real, not to say Dan isn't, but we're seeing a real clinical, methodical, really well-rounded and patient driver.
For me, uncompromised. I think Dan's grown up in Formula One, expecting cars to behave a certain way.
Yes.
Oscar doesn't have those.
No.
Precursors.
No, and that's such a blessing in disguise,
that's
isn't
right,
it?
for this car.
Because he's kind of like what Lando was when Lando arrived at McLaren.
Yeah,
it's all he's ever known.
Yep.
So I think we're seeing just a different one, and I think what we're going to see is probably a really similar Lando, but a more mature one, because he'll know that he's team leader at the moment. Whether he's a number one or a number two, is anyone's guess. But he's certainly the senior driver in that team.
Definitely number one.
Yeah. He's certainly the senior driver. He's the leader of that team.
Yep.
But he'll be looking across the garage going, I've got a kid that isn't probably necessarily turning to me on a week-in, week-out basis to say, hey, can you help me? What do I need to do here? That he's super capable of being able to do it without him probably on occasion. And so he'd be mindful of that and think, I need to be really mature here.
I'm really interested to see how he reacts. I expect him to get back on top. I really do.
Yep.
I think he's a fabulous driver, and I think Piastri's still got plenty to learn.
Yep.
So I expect Norris to get back on top pretty
I
quick.
think there'll be plenty
but I'm really interested to watch his personality.
Yeah, okay.
With this new dynamic, because he's been on top, and then he brought in the rookie, and he's been on top of the rookie this year. But I'll be interested to see this dynamic. This new upgrade really seems to have suited Piastri, and it's an interesting one.
I think that we will see. I think we'll see Oscar outrace him probably 3 more times. I reckon throughout the year.
Yep,
I really, really do. I really generally think that.
Let's talk Oscar now.
All right.
First lap, first corner. My wife wakes up in the morning. How's the race? And I don't want to talk about it. First lap, first corner. She's like, well. What about Dan? And no, Dan wasn't so good either. But he anyway. So let's go to this incident.
All right.
Was there anyone at fault on this one?
Oh, look. 6 of one, half a dozen the other, really. You shouldn't be going in there that tight. But Sainz was... No, Sainz wasn't super aggressive. It was Perez that was super aggressive off the line, which I think was the knock-on effect.
But wasn't it wasn't it Lewis coming across which forced Sainz across, which forced Piastri across?
It was Perez coming across in front of Lewis.
Oh, sorry. So Perez onto Lewis, onto Sainz,
Yep.
into pushing Piastri into that position.
Perez aggressively in front of Lewis, which then concertinaed the effect back to Sainz, who then locked up while he was going deep.
Yep.
But I mean, the room was there. Sainz's lock-up really didn't aid or help him because that sort of put him on a bit of a 20-degree angle into that corner. But Oscar took that corner so bloody sharp. It was sharp.
But he wasn't intending to. That's the thing.
That
wasn't the game plan.
He was probably avoiding action as well. So it was a knock-on effect from all those things.
Yeah. There was part of me that I liked that he didn't get out of it. To fix that problem, Oscar should have got out of it.
Yep.
And just sat in behind Sainz. But there was a part of me that was like, you know what? I like that he stayed with it.
I don't know, but he did come across. I'm watching the onboard now. Sainz does come across. But
and the lockup doesn't help Sainz's calls.
No.
Because it shows, hang on, he is a little bit out of control here. But his lockup is caused also by the fact that everyone's coming over on him.
Yeah, and Lewis is in his way.
For this one here, I'm giving it complete racing incident.
Yeah, look,
because there's so many factors from 4 wide. I always say if you're going to be right out wide, trying to overtake everyone right out wide on the first corner, you run the risk of something running into you.
Yep.
And if you're cutting right in close,
yep,
you run the risk of someone,
yep,
or you causing some incidents.
Yep.
And in that situation, I don't think either were deliberate. And so it wasn't like he's deliberately trying to shoot down there to pick up the spot. It's just he didn't want to get out because he had a great start.
Do you think we would have seen a better result from McLaren had they have gambled not with the weather and had have gone for the dry setup?
So that's the next part. So what we saw is a really, really incredibly slow McLaren through that race in the first part.
But,
and which makes me think that, oh my God, what was the point in even being there anyway? But then Norris turned it around.
He kind of did.
Which is really fascinating.
Chipped away because he was up and down through the lower half of the order for most of the race.
He went to the back of the pack. He went to, it was either last or second last.
Yep.
On pure speed in his first stint.
Yep.
And so then I was thinking, it doesn't really matter what happened to Piastri because
Norris
is in this position. But then he sort of fought his way out of it, which is a very Norris thing to do. He sort of finds solutions over time.
And took an early pit stop on lap 6, which wasn't ideal.
Would they have been better off with a high with a low downforce solution?
Yep.
Well, they wouldn't have had the performance they had in the sprint race.
But then,
for starters,
but I guess
then they would have had a better result.
That's
potentially.
what you got to decide as a team. Do you want to win sprints or do you want to win Grand Prix?
Well, I think their problem is that there was expecting to be rain, good chance of rain on Sunday, and then it sort of cleared up after they made that decision.
The last few years in Spa have been, hyper wet. So
it was a big risk to run with it. I didn't mind it, to be honest with you. I thought they went from heroes sort of to villains in the end, but I didn't really mind it in the end.
I kind of feel like with the upgrades that they had made, they were probably going to be thereabouts, even if they had gone...
Didn't have to make the wild...
Yeah, with a real low downforce package. I think that the car, the mechanical grip from what they're working with, probably would have held them in good stead throughout the race weekend.
I think their feeling is it's still a little draggy, so let's go with the other option.
2 race weekends
hope for the rain
in a row that Dan has passed a McLaren on track, on pace. He'd be enjoying that. He'd be enjoying that.
He certainly would be.
Even though they're not in the same fight, for him to be out there and just, making his way past Lando and things like that. That's 2 weekends in a row now. He'd be having a big smile on his face as he cruises past.
Esteban Ocon into 8th.
Yeah, just
There's
so much wrong with Alpine at the moment, isn't there?
It was better than what we'd seen.
It was.
A 3rd in the sprint race, an 8th here. That is the best of the rest position.
It kind of is, isn't it?
Even though we lost a couple of the rest throughout this race, it was the best of the rest position. So it's probably where they're at.
They're the 6th fastest car.
They'll be happy to pick up those 2 points.
I think the blessing from where they
4
are
points,
is that the cars behind them, the gap is big enough that they don't have to look over their shoulder.
They're now in safety, yeah.
Yep, they're in safety from those coming behind. So
possibly. I'd be interested to see if Dan Ricciardo, Alpha Tauri, because that has actually picked up some form here.
He has actually, yeah.
Yeah.
What did you make of all the goings on at Alpine? Just while we're talking Alpine, Otmar Safnauer last weekend sacked.
Mid-race.
Openly sacked.
Mid-weekend.
Mid-weekend. See you later. If you hadn't listened to the Beyond the Grid podcast, he talks about just, you can get a sense in hindsight, now that I've listened to it, because I've listened to it before the weekend actually, but hindsight, knowing that he's been sacked, he went back and I listened to it again, and you can almost hear a little bit of the disconnect and like instability about what's going on at Alpine, and some of his responses to Tom Gleickson's questions are very vague, and there are a couple of times where he talks about this now rumoured 100 race plan, where they must be winning within 100 races. Mm-hmm. And he responds when he's asked about that is he doesn't know when that started.
Oh, yeah.
So there's some responses to his question. If anyone hasn't had a listen to it, go back and have a listen. Just the way that he responds to questions, you can tell that he's not quite sure what's going on.
When we used to see at Force India originally, and then they developed into all the other teams. Yep. And he was a key figure at those places. He was a key figure, and a lot of the responsibility of how they're performing so well on such a limited budget was down to him. And then it was decided that, well, now we've got a good budget, he's not the man to lead the charge.
Yep.
He's very good at making things happen.
Yep, with limited resources.
Yep, and he can make them turn around. We never really saw much of him with Alpine, did we? He was never the big man in that team. It feels like
Laurent Rossi definitely was.
Yeah, but it feels like there's the controls in the boardroom.
Yeah.
And it's not really with the team, and there's that overshadowing going on there, and I feel like that's just I don't think it was a good fit.
I think having him bring what he kind of brought to Alpine from his Force India days, which was Ocon and the constant clashes with the teammate. Now, like, obviously, all happy families off track, but I don't think the last 2 race weekends have held him in good stead either, or even the weekends across the year. Where
who in good stead?
Otmar.
Oh, yeah.
Where the two drive, like he brings Ocon with him wherever he goes.
Yep.
And then what he also brings is that on-track clash. I mean, if you really have a think about it, can you think about another team that most race weekends, or you can remember more frequently than others, where teammates are hitting each other? So you don't see... I couldn't tell you a time in the last 12 months where 2 Red Bulls have collided. Mm. We haven't seen Ferraris do it.
Have you seen these guys do it?
I don't think...
Oh, yeah, sorry. Well, we did, but it wasn't their fault.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think I've really seen... Have you seen Ferraris collide?
No.
Mercedes? No. The 2 Astons, well, you had Stroll hitting Fernando in, Circuit of the Americas?
Yeah, there was a little bit of weaving going on.
No, that was last year. Sorry, so different cars there. So if you think about it, just going up and down the grid, this is the thing that Ocon and Otmar bring to a team, is the on-track teammate into teammate.
But does it happen this year?
Yeah, it's happened the last 2 race weekends. They've both DNF'd. They literally hit each other last weekend.
Yeah, but that wasn't due to them. That was due.
No.
That was due to.
They still hit each other though. That's what I'm
but
saying.
That was due to Zhou pushing one or the other.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I don't think the last 2 weekends have held him in good stead because that's happened.
Well, I don't think it has anything to do with Otmar.
It's happened at Force India. I think there's a bit of a pattern there.
It feels like and the other thing is Ocon was already at the team before Otmar got there.
Yeah. I think
the funks. Yeah.
I think there's little things like that.
Look, I feel like Alpine want to be big budget team, but are unwilling to be proper big budget team. Yep. And so it wasn't like Otmar was suiting their look, suiting the way they wanted to go about it. And so all of a sudden they're like, well, we want to be a big budget team, but we don't want to put in all the resources behind the scenes.
Yep.
The other big knock on them is that there's a belief that they've got to be able to make the two sides of the team. So there's a team in England, there's a team in France, and they can't really get them to talk properly together.
Yep.
And so so that's the part that Otmar couldn't solve. Where can you see him going?
Nowhere.
Alpha Tauri?
No.
Why not?
Just can't.
See, a limited budget, that's got to suit them. I mean, they're a Red Bull family, and that's my only knock on this idea is they're a Red Bull family, and Red Bull will probably want to develop their own into that team.
Yeah, I do too.
But look, I reckon he'd be a great fit at Alpha Tauri.
I kind of don't. I don't. He's not someone that I always think about as a real game-changing team.
You used to be up and about when he was at Force India.
I think because Force India itself was just such a small team.
Yeah.
And just the whole facility and everything that was Force India, I think more so him, but just, a couple of hundred people, very small budget, well and truly punching above their weight. But you're right in what you say. Alpine aren't a small team with a small budget. They're a pretty sizable team with a big budget. They run through.
They want to be a big boy without putting in all the effort to make themselves big boys. They're like, oh, well, if we're just here for long enough, we're going to turn into it. And they're like, oh, well, if you're not going to make it happen, we'll sack you and bring someone else in.
And that's where, they've got things like the LMP2s, LMP1s, the hypercars, all the different categories they run in. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they need to... All this disruption is going to cause them some drama over time. I think they should have stuck with him because I don't think sacking him is going to fix this problem.
No.
Cyril Abedable came out and said sort of along those lines. These sort of disruptive movements from the board aren't helping the team, and they're actually going to slow the progress down.
What did you make of this quote? Did you see his quote?
Whose?
Otmar's quote.
Go on.
I'm going to read it to you because I've been trying to think. About. I've never heard this as a quote or a saying. Oh, I just don't get it. So this is his This is on his interview for across the race weekend from his exit of Alpine. So it says, changes take time. I signed some good people from other teams, but they won't join until 24 or 25. As I always say, you can't get 9 women pregnant and hope to have a baby in a month.
I like it.
What is that?
It's a weird one, but I like.
What does it
mean? It means that.
What does it mean? What is he trying to say?
You can do lots of things, but it's not going to make what you want happen straight away. Some things just require some time to come through.
The choice of words.
It is a weird. It's a
general
weird,
sort of.
I think I've heard that saying before.
Is it a saying?
A weird one. Yeah,
I would be shocked. I just like. I thought, have you got that round the wrong way?
No, I think I've heard
Do
it
you
before.
know what you're talking about? Anyway,
do you want to talk about Stroll? We missed him.
I guess if we have to. He had a
done.
very good pass. I will give credit where it's due. A very good pass on like lap 10, I think it was, on Lando into the, I call it the bus stop, but into the chicane.
Yep.
It was a very good move. Can't think of anything else he's
That's
done.
very Stroll though, isn't it? Like he'll pull off something. You're like, oh, good on him, and then he sort of.
And then,
goes
he
missing.
put it into. Well, yeah, he put it into the wall, didn't he?
Yep.
Made the gamble on the hards, I think it was, in the sprint shootout, and bang, straight into the wall.
Alpha Tauri and Yuki Tsunoda picked up a point.
Oh, I tell you what. Tell me what. Driver of the weekend, almost, Yuki Tsunoda. I thought he was absolutely flying in every sense of the word.
It's like we watch different things.
And it is. I pay attention to different things.
By driver of the weekend, do you mean of the race?
No.
Well, he was outdriven. He was outdriven in every other one, in every other meanful session.
It was a slow
apart
build
from the race.
It was a slow build into it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yep. Sure. Our man Dan What do you think of this one? Second time out?
Second time out. Sprint was good. Race was a bit meh.
The qualifyings
were okay.
Well, really solid. I mean, he lost one with track limits. He sort of knew it. He actually had time to get out of that lap, recharge the batteries and get around.
Yeah.
But he said, look, you never really know. He goes, I feared that was going to be the case, but you never really know. And when you're in full-blown qualifying mode, you don't want to be on the radio to your team saying, hey, can you check that to see if I've gone over it? And so, that was a bit disappointing. But other than that, he out-qualified his teammate.
Yeah.
Or would have out-qualified his teammate twice.
Yep.
His sprint race was terrific.
Yeah.
It was really good strategy. He helped with strategy because he actually nailed I'll hang out there long. We got a safety car. I'll make all that work for me, working around.
Yeah.
And then he picked up some places at the end of the race I thought was pretty decent. The places were only Logan Sargent and Hulkenberg, but he was certainly in last position there for a while. But the race wasn't great. The race sort of felt like, he's still learning the tyres.
Yeah.
Which I think that's his biggest thing is he sort of needs to find those balances of how hard can I push these tyres before they drop off.
Yep.
And it felt like he was sort of going through that learning curve. Be good for him to get that race distance in.
I think so
race,
too. I think so too.
Yeah,
he'll bounce back.
The speed's definitely there. That's for sure.
Yep.
There's no doubt about it. Decent qualifying. I think he could have picked up some better result.
Yeah, I think so too.
Anyone else you want to mention?
I just want to mention the Haas boys and the absolute failure that was the qualifying session to even get out and put a lap in Q1. Had to go to the stewards and ask for special consideration, for a better word, to actually race because they didn't time it correctly.
So they weren't damaged.
They literally did not time it correctly. They sat in the box for way too long, went and did one run, checkered flag came out, they missed it. Did not set a time. So an absolute failure in every sense of the word.
In which session?
That was in the sprint shootout, I'm pretty sure it was. Yep, sprint shootout.
How bizarre.
Sprint shootout. Hulk totally missed the flag and didn't get it in.
It says D and F.
Yep. Didn't set a time.
But ran 6 laps. So did he not register a time?
No,
did he run wide?
So. I don't know.
He did 6 laps in that qualifying session.
Yep.
How weird's that? Maybe he had his time taken off him.
Maybe.
Okay. So that's a special one.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go. All signs 3, 2, and 1. That's awesome. Thanks to All Signs. Who's your 3 lovely points going to?
3 points has to go to Oscar.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though he didn't participate in the race?
Even though he didn't participate in the race. Even though.
Wow, okay.
Yep.
I was debating whether I can afford to give him 1. But you really hate sprint races. How can you be giving all the points to a sprint race that you hate?
I do hate sprint races.
Oh, you are so all over the place. Who's 2?
2. I'm actually giving it to Yuki for 2. I thought he had a phenomenal race weekend. I really, really do. I really do. I would say that's his best weekend of the year.
It's a different world that we live in. The 2 guys are so similar and
I know.
and get along so well. How can actually? You know what?
What's that?
What's he and I quite similar to?
Yeah.
Why am I so dissimilar to all my best mates? Does me head in.
I don't know.
That might be why, you know.
It could be.
Yeah,
it
I
could
do
be.
like it when people disagree with me.
That's true.
Go on, give me 1.
And 1, I'm going to give it to Charles.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Just another podium.
Yep.
Nicely done. They're in recovery mode.
I'm trying to find...
Expect a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't think we've given any points to Charles this year.
Understandable.
Have we? Feels like I'm missing... Oh, yes, there he is. No, we've given heaps.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
good.
Radio, for me... 2 points. 2 points. When I'm starting at 2, that'd be the weirdest spot to start. 1 would be understandable. 3 would be even more understandable. 3 points. Look, I think I'm going to have to give 3 points to Oscar also. No, I can't. No, it's a good point. I can't. Look, I'm going to give 3 points to Charles. I thought it was nice to see the Ferraris back into it.
Yeah, right.
I I was tossing up whether I can give one to Piastri. I'll give one to Piastri.
Okay.
I think he deserves one.
All right.
How many did you give him?
3.
Who do I give 3 to now? Now my things are...
See, you're overthinking it now.
No, I've got a Piastri line and an Oscar line, I've just realised.
Yeah,
I've been giving points all over the joint. Man, we are pretty happy with Oscar.
A Piastri line
geez.
and an Oscar line.
And I'm going to give 1 point. No, 2 points. Jeez, this is going well. 3 points to Leclerc. 2 points to Lewis.
Right.
I thought Lewis is found a little bit of form, although, mind you...
All right.
This is not for the sprint race. This is for the Grand Prix.
Okay.
Because I think he should have been penalised. And yeah, the 1 point goes to Piastri.
Right.
And I'll fix up Oscar's points. Jeez, Oscar could be winning this. That's how well Oscar's going.
Considering you're giving it to him, he's doubling down.
Well, that's right.
Doubling down on points.
Let's go dud of the day.
All right, dud of the day. Oh, jeez. Yeah, you go first. You go first with dud.
No.
You go first with dud.
All right.
Yeah.
My dud of the day.
Yep.
My dud of the day is... I don't know. I don't have one.
Really?
Well, no, I don't.
All right.
It was going to be for the
Yep.
for the British media on the Lewis thing, but you've made me now start to question myself.
As you should.
Yeah, look, it's got to be at some point. Sky has to understand that their feed goes to the rest of the world.
Oh, good.
Because it's just like, or and I know that Adam Hughes is going to come on and grill me here because he'll be saying, well, you can get the Formula One on F1 TV now.
Yep.
Which is fantastic.
Yep.
But yeah, like at some point, Sky F1 have to understand that their coverage goes to the rest of the world. You can't be so biased openly all the time. I understand they have a feed that goes into England, but man, what about the rest of it? I know what you're going with. I do know what you're going with, and that is nearly hero of the hour.
It's not hero.
To have the bravery to do what this man did,
and I watched it back on.
Nearly has to be hero of the hour.
So it has to go.
So now I'm going to the British. I'm going to the British media. There were.
All right.
Yeah, it's just like there's just no ability to remove themselves from the bias.
Yeah.
And then there's all those questions. Go on, go with yours.
I'm watching the reaction of the people watching it. So it has
the reaction's the best part. Which is why it's hero of the hour. Brought so much joy.
It's not. So it has to go to the performance of the national anthem of Belgium, who I can only describe as like Wish's version of Elton John.
Yes.
It is just...
It is. It
is hideous. Wearing the longest...
See, this is wrong. You've got this wrong again.
George's reaction to trying to keep a straight face.
See, the thing is, you've got this wrong. I've never seen you so happy on this
so
podcast.
Bad. Have a look. He's got a cape that is about 10 meters long, which is also a flag with gold pants. And it's just, it's awful. It's so...
Think about how much joy you're getting out of this. My wife,
what an idiot.
I'd liken this to, my wife makes the most amazing birthday cakes, and she is not a baker. She's not much of a baker, not much of a cook in general. I do most of the cooking around our house. And my wife loves making beautiful birthday cakes, but her first one was an absolute catastrophe.
What do you think of the anthem? I'm going to play the anthem. What we're talking
it was a
about
melted mess.
Yep.
And it's brought me more joy, that cake, and the photo I took of that cake, than all the fabulous cakes she's made since. And for that reason, it's my favourite one. I think this guy's hero of the hour for you. Look how much joy you've had out of it. No, it doesn't work. It's like you're new to podcasting. It is like you're new to podcasting. At least hold it close to your microphone and your side of the microphone.
How's the flame glasses?
Yeah, wonderful.
How's the flame?
See how much joy you've got.
It's like the servo. You know when you stop in at the servo and you see glasses and you think, ooh.
Nah. These ones are only in dress-ups. You're not even seeing these ones at the servo.
Wowee. Anyway, hey, and Fernando's reaction.
Yeah. It's the watching of the drivers trying to be polite. But it's like, oh, come on. Is this a setup?
I don't know who that man is in the middle with Mohammed Ben Salid, but yeah, he's loving it too.
It is fantastic.
And then just wow.
I got a hero of the hour. Which that guy is actually clearly hero of the hour.
His name is. I think Lewis takes a photo of him too before he sings. Hang on, it brings up his name. I think he's
does Lewis have his phone on the grid?
Yeah. Yep.
Different.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, Lewis is a bit different. We know that. It is. What's his name? There it is. It is Anthony Deli.
There you go. Sure. But anyway, I'm going to make him your hero of the hour.
Wish's version of Elton John.
My hero of the hour,
Lord.
And you won't get this from me very often.
Okay.
Race control.
Race control. Wow.
So this was a weekend there was heightened emotions in general because of the track that it is. There's a little bit of worry about Spa in terms of the way that it races, which, hey, I do not want drivers' lives at risk, but this is an iconic track, and some people need to start shutting up about this because it's not like people are dying in Formula One all the time here, and we haven't even had a close call, which we don't want close calls. I know that.
Yep.
But there was a heightened emotion, and with a wet race, there was lots of worry that they were going to lose the race in general if it was too wet. I thought race control handled the situation beautifully. They took control of the race. They didn't give us a start in the sprint race, which was a bit dirty on them on, but we saw that
4 laps
really
behind the safety car.
Yep, and then we saw that really unique situation where half the field pitted, the other half couldn't because they're going to get stuck in the line.
Yep.
And so we saw this really interesting thing, but I thought they just handled that really well.
Yep.
It was like, no, we're not risking things here. We're going to do it as safely as we possibly can, but we can make it happen. They delayed long enough to make it happen.
Yep.
And I felt like they just controlled the whole race weekend really well. So we got racing. There wasn't ridiculous amounts of time behind the safety car. It wasn't like they're being over precautious.
Yep.
It was just, I thought they deserved a pat on the back because we don't often give them those.
Right, well, there you go. That was good.
F1.5.
F1.5. Do you know Anthony Deli? I'm definitely pronouncing it wrong. He won The Voice in Belgium.
That makes sense.
Season 9.
That makes sense. Hero of the hour.
That's why he's dressed up in a flag and Elton John kit. F1.5. Now. You're going to be excited by this. Because we're now moving into the realm. Now that we're like summer break time. We're moving into the realm of a couple of different championships that are now starting to filter out in F1.5. And again, that's what makes it the greatest championship in the world, because we're starting to find, little pockets of championships. So we've got 3, we've got F1.5, and then we've got 2 little mini championships that you can keep an eye on.
I had a question over the break.
Yes.
Between races. Break.
Yep.
Do you include sprint race points in F1.5?
No.
Because you're a dictator.
Because I hate them.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and it's my championship, so
even though
I can do as I please.
I understand.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense.
Dictator.
Makes sense. All right, coming in for their very, very first points for the pole position award goes to Oscar Piastri, who's found himself with a pole position point.
With the 6th.
Yeah, with the 6th place, as we know. So he's nailed his first points there with the pole position award. And then in terms of the fastest laps, also joining the party with fastest laps is Alex Albon. So he gets his first point.
There you go.
So there you go. Probably the second one's the most unlikely one, you would have thought. Anyway.
Yeah, I am surprised by that.
All right, now, would you like the order, or would you like to know what the championships are as we go through, like as a fan? What do you want? What do you want?
I want
first?
the order.
You want the order?
I need to have that in my head.
Okay.
And then you can talk about
and then I can give you what the championships are. Okay, all right. Kicking around in last place is Dan. He picks up 2 points for 12, which is a good return. It's an average of 6 points. Of 2 points. That's half of 12 is 6.
Right.
Nick De Vries is still staying in there, because I did say that Nick is staying in there as a bit of a comparison. So Nick finished on 35 points in his little F1 career, and Dan has already picked up 12 and 2, so all bets are off there. Sargent, 44, K-Mag, 57, Hulk in 67, all officially relegated. Hulk joins the relegation party. That's it. He's out of it. They're all nearly or over 100 points adrift halfway through the season. They're not going to be in it, so they are out. They're also 40-odd points out away from Piastri, who was unlucky this weekend because could very well have rocketed up into 4th place. So he's on 108 points for Piastri. Just sitting below him is Zhou on 99. Very close to relegation is Zhou. He's the next target there.
Zhou's in relegation, but he's all the way up above Piastri.
Well, he's only on 99. Everyone else is... He's not above him. He's on 99.
How many is Piastri?
Piastri's on 108.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
So he's the only...
Jeez, you're very ruthless.
I know I am. He's the only sort of top runner. I say top runner in air quotes. It isn't on triple figures. Bottas is on 107 and Tsunoda is on 109. So they're all sort of kicking around there in the 100 and somethings. Then you've got in 4th place, you've got Albon. Remember I said a couple of weeks ago? Highly touted driver for a top team. 120 points. Doing very nicely.
In a Williams.
Very nicely in a Williams.
With a teammate who's been relegated.
Absolutely. Ocon, driving quite well, only 27 points in front of him. So Ocon's on 147, Gasly is on 149, and Lando Norris. Now, we said the other week, we were worried that he was going to skip away with that. If you look at that, the McLaren boys are kind of almost bookending the top half here of F1.5, and Lando leads on 179. So he's got a nice buffer, a win and a bit, which is good. So that'll keep him in good step.
Yep.
So,
are we gonna see them promoted?
No, not at this stage. We'll just wait and see. I mean,
right.
Hey, we could leave Zandvoort. You never know. I love Zandvoort. All right, so here we are. F1.5 now exists from Zhou to Norris. So 99 on Zhou, Norris 179.
Okay.
Under that is now the little relegation championship, which will be F1.75. So now we're going to have a little mini title race.
I think you should name it FR.
FR, Formula Relegation. I love that. I'm literally changing it right now. Jeez, you're not just a pretty face.
No.
Yeah. Formula Relegation. I love it. So Hulk is in there. Hulk is now leading the way in Formula R.
Oh, go Hulk.
That's good. 67, 57 and 44. So they're also going to kick around there. To
think that he was nearly going to have a wasted season.
To nearly, and now he's leading. Now he's suddenly
win the losers.
Leading a championship. And then last of all,
what have we got?
It's just the rivals. It's the rivals down the bottom. It's Dan versus De Vries. Formula D.
Oh, yeah, I like it.
Formula D. So, Dan and De Vries, can Dan really, the watch party there is, can he run him down before the season's out?
Well, I think, how many races did De Vries get?
He got 9.
I think Dan should only get 9.
Oh, only 9? Okay, well, which
would have him...
Well, you'd say in 2 races time, he'll be on 24 points at the race. Yeah, no,
so that means that he's going to need to have passed him by round...
When are we, 12 now?
Well, yes. Well, you reckon he definitely got 9?
Yeah, De Vries got 9.
9. So Dan gets till Qatar, because which is round 18.
Because remember, we didn't race in...
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Imola. We didn't race in Imola. Otherwise, he would have had 10.
So what round did he go to?
So he went to round 10, but he had 9 races.
Okay.
Because we didn't race in Imola.
Okay,
that's round 12.
Okay, sorry. So we need by the United States. He's got until the United States.
Circuit of the Americas.
Circuit of the Americas.
Are you including Circuit of the Americas, or is it before?
No, including Circuit of the Americas.
Including Circuit of the Americas. All right. So COTA is the cutoff.
That'll be round 9. So that'll be 9 each.
Okay.
And then
good.
the one race out because the free lost one.
All right. We'll see how quick.
All right.
Very good.
Like
anyway,
new excitement.
Lots to watch. Lots of good things. So that's why it is the best championship of all time. So it's F1.5, Formula R, and Formula D. Let us know on the socials which one you will be following.
I can't get over how ruthless you are,
mate,
this year.
That's part of being
all the way to Zhou. So
that is part of being the team boss.
You can't kick Zhou out though here.
No, well, he might just be relegated into a whole just different zone.
Yeah, because he can't go into the relegation battle because he'll
win.
Far too far ahead.
Yes, he'll win. So
he's got to stay.
Anyway, that's how it's looking now. So let us know who you're voting for, who you're cheering for, what is your What's your league you're going to be keeping your eye on the most? Anyway, okay. Good times.
I like it. Fantasy.
You'll be pleased to know that I'm no longer winning fantasy.
That doesn't please me. It does
please you. It pleases you immensely.
Oh,
so
much.
I know. I had a shocker over a weekend too.
Shouldn't have touched it.
It is always sprint weekend that trips me up. That's why I hate it. Anyway, so I've dropped down. I'm sitting fifth, but I'm only fifth, but I'm only 20 points behind.
God,
and that's not a huge drop.
Anyway, went from first to fifth.
I went from first to fifth. Yes, I did.
You know the Bradbury story? People around the world won't, but he's famous in Australia because he was the ice skater that shouldn't have probably made it to the Olympics. Speed skater.
Yep.
He got through the rounds with all sorts of disqualifications happening around him and all that sort of stuff. Yep. And he gets to the final and he's racing and he's doing us proud. And then with about 5 laps to go, he drops behind the field because he's nowhere near fast enough to be there. And they all crash on the last lap.
Yep.
You're one of the guys that crashed.
That's me crashing on the last lap. Anyway, Team Q, last round. Last round I really pumped up Team Q.
He went backwards
too. And I actually have held steady against him. So it is Party in the back that has come from absolutely nowhere.
That's come from the back.
And has now taken the lead. And the way they've done that is they've pumped in their Limitless chip. So they've put their Limitless chip in and their team looks like this. So it was 316 points for the round. Max, Checo, Lando, Lewis, George, the Red Bulls, and the McLaren, which is a tidy little team for a sprint race weekend. Lewis and George, 32 and 28, respectively, going on there. So that's pretty good. So well done to Party in the back coming through. So they have 3,629 points. Here is how tight it is. So in second place, WW Jolien PD is on 3,619 points. In third place, Massey did nothing wrong. Only 1 point adrift. 3,618.
Yep.
Tails I win, what I call is fourth, but is actually equal third, which makes no sense to me. Use the extra DRS chip, so scored 204 for Max, which is huge. Again, also only 1 point adrift of second. 3,618, and then I'm sitting just rounding out the top 5, 3,609. So I'm only 10 points off second place, and I'm 20 points off first. So this is what hurt a lot of people, including me, across the race weekend. Oscar's DNF did not help, so -7 for Oscar.
So you jumped on Oscar.
That hurts. Jumped on Oscar and Lando, so I made both of those changes.
Mm-hmm.
But I stuck with my guns with the Alpha Tauri team.
You would have thought Oscar's results in the rest of the weekend would have propped up.
Yeah, we'll see. A race not classified is -20.
That is crazy.
So qualifying, he had 5. In the sprint, he had 8. And then in the race, he had -20. So it was only, not a lot from Oscar there too. Checo, if you hung on to Checo like I did, that's where that hurt. Because across the race weekend, qualifying in third, he had 8. Sprint is where he DNF'd, so -20 for the sprint.
Oh,
I know.
I see.
And then the race weekend, well, he kind of saved face, but
jeez, that's harsh, isn't it?
-20's harsh.
-20
DNFs is where it hurts you. And then his race position, he had 18 points for finishing second, and 1 point for a race overtake bonus as well. So that's where Checo sort of, at -20, that's nearly 40 points Checo would have had. So
have we gone down the wrong route here?
No,
because I've jumped on the McLarens.
I have too. No, you have not.
I'm starting to wonder.
Oh dear, no, you haven't. If you hold on to Dan,
I did.
Paying dividends.
I did.
7 points for Dan. You can expect him to go up very shortly in value,
which is better than like he's the cheapest driver out there.
Yes.
It's better than like value. So I'm with you.
No, I don't know. If you have jumped on McLaren, I don't think you've done the wrong thing. I think you've absolutely done the right thing by hanging on to that. I tell you what, I'm very happy with sticking fast on the Alpha Tauris because I got more points with an Alpha Tauri than what you would have had with McLaren as a constructor. So anyway, 18 points there.
18 points for McLaren.
18 points for McLaren as well. There you go. Right? 18 points with Alpha Tauri and only cost me $6 million. So,
there
you go. Anyway, so that is the league. that is the top 5. Thank you to Chris at Dr. Auto Art for all of your incredible support. Check out his Facebook, Redbubble, Instagram, social medias.
Latest helmet is fire.
Latest helmet is great. I think you put up a little video, didn't you, of him making a bit of artwork, so you can see the process behind it.
Yep.
Anyway, midway point, that's where we're looking for fantasy. How you feel you're tracking, mate? You're 16th at the moment.
Yeah,
look, happy with where you are?
I didn't have a great round.
No,
there's no doubt about it. I've dropped positions again.
Yep.
Yeah, look, Albon helped me.
Albon's nice.
I went to Albon with 19, and that helped me big time. But I'm nervous.
Right. 16th. You're 100 points behind me.
I didn't realise that I'll probably beat you.
You probably will.
Yeah, well, now that you've gone,
have you used your Limitless chip yet? Your full.
I went autopilot.
I did too. It's sort of a waste now.
I don't really want the Limitless chip.
You don't want it?
Well, it's about the money. I don't know that.
That's where you can have the top 6 drivers and the 2 top teams.
Oh, I'm with you. Oh, yeah. No, I haven't done that yet.
Okay, so that's where you're looking all right there.
Next sprint race, there we
go.
go.
Need to get a little bit of a run on it.
Hang on. Yep. So how many? We need 5 drivers.
Yep.
Who's the best 5 drivers?
Well, you could have Max, you could have Checo, you could have Charles, you could have Lewis, and you could have George.
I'm not sure they're the best.
That's
my question. Because we saw Charles and we saw McLaren throughout the weekend, so it's not exactly.
No, that's why I used it early, because it was really clear cut who the top 5 were.
Oh, so you've used that?
I've already used that.
Oh yeah, you're cooked.
I'm not in great shape anymore. I take great pride in knowing that I led the championship.
You did
for 3 rounds,
which we've never done before.
We have never, because we suck at fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's fantasy again. Thanks to Chris, Dr. Auto Art.
What a man!
Hey, mid-season, summer break, good time to get yourself a bit of a F1 merchandise. Just buying F1 things.
Yep.
Speaking of buying F1 things,
oh yeah,
I bought for listeners. I was a bit late to recording tonight because while I was at work,
the Beyond the Racing Line Studios, he was running a little late.
While I was at work, I was browsing through Facebook Marketplace.
Don't say that out loud.
No,
it was on a break. He's on a break, definitely. Yeah,
that was definitely. And just one of the best little places where you can go. I think there's another one in England. I forget what it's called. Anyway, you just type in F1 and you can just pull up some random things. So like, what's on there at the moment? You can get a button shirt, a Red Bull shirt for $50. You can get a vintage Toyota F1 racing jacket. Now that's something I love. $250 for that. What else can you get? You can get, there's like a whole series of look at that one, autograph cards in Melbourne. That's just a whole sequence of the entire field, $700. Anyway, there's some really cool things. You just, I look at it as like a garage sale. Imagine you turned up to a garage sale and it was nothing but F1 garage sale. Would you like a 1992 Ford Formula F1 chassis? $4,950? That'll cost you on Facebook Marketplace. Anyway, I picked up a ride-on Kimi Räikkönen Lotus for my little boy.
When he says ride-on, not for us.
Not for adults, for a 2-year-old.
Yep.
With fully working Formula 1 engine sounds for $10. What a steal. What a steal. It is. I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to take a photo. I'm going to put it online.
I couldn't believe how good the condition was.
How good does it sound?
It is.
It's got a little bit of a broken front wing, but I've got a heat gun at work that I can use to sort of I'll melt that up a little bit and straighten it up for him. Anyway, he is going to love it. Love it sick. Anyway, $10. Anyway, let us know. What's the best Formula 1 item that you own? What would you say your best Formula 1 item is that you own?
My media passes.
Just thinking, media passes.
I love them so much.
Yeah, media passes.
Brings back memories. Every time I look at them every morning, it brings back some beautiful memories of being in the
You know what else I've got at home?
I've got sorry, before I interrupt you, no. I've got a Brittany Rosberg hat that's signed that one of my great mates, Chuka.
That's right, yeah.
Went and got signed for me at an event. And and now I'm thinking about burning it.
Yeah, Jeez, you've jumped on Brittany, haven't you? I can't think
What a dirtbag.
I know. What else have you got that you really like in terms of F1 memorabilia?
Don't make kids apologise to you live on air.
I know you don't.
Don't get me started now.
No, you don't.
Yeah, no, so, yeah, no. That's pretty cool.
I've got
one of the early Red Bull hats, which I really like.
Yeah, I've got a button shirt from the second year of Red Bull.
As in a button-up shirt, or...
Like the actual team uniform, when it used to be button shirt.
I don't remember Jensen Button driving for him.
No, so like the button shirt of those. Yep. What else have I got that I love? I love. 06 Alonso sort of shirt, which got signed a couple of years ago.
Have you got a Pirelli #1 podium hat?
Yes, I do. I've got a blue one, a red one, and a black one.
I do want one of them.
And they're all signed by Seb.
You know I like a hat.
You do love a hat. And then the other thing that I've got is one of the flags from out the front of Albert Park from 1997, I want to say. I don't know that's the right year. It's probably not. I'm thinking 2007, actually. I think it is 2007. And it's all red, and it's got all the dates from the Grand Prix on it. And it's like, the actual thing. It's about 4 meters long.
Oh, cool.
And it's about 2 meters wide. I used to live in a 2-story house, and I could hold it from the balcony all the way down, and it still would fold up on the ground.
Oh, that's cool.
And I got that for about $40 at a garage sale one weekend. It was hanging on the fence.
What do you do with it?
It actually used to be a car cover for my old car that didn't drive anymore. I used it as like the cover on that because I wanted to look after it, but then I sold it. So it's actually just folded up in the shed, just in a little bit of a vacuum seal bag. It's in good condition.
It's got in the new studio.
I should go in the new studio. You wouldn't fit it in here, that's true. You have to fold it over 2 or 3 times.
Well, we're moving, remember?
I know, that's
studio.
Correct.
So it's got a new studio.
Anyway, really heavy
Very
duty.
cool.
It's got Schumacher and a Ferrari on it too. So
very cool.
Just one of my favourite little items.
News. Couple of news items.
All right, yep.
Coming out. Tyre blankets asked to stay for 2024. It was announced today.
Now, talked about this a few months ago. We talked about this because of the accidents that were occurring in the WEC.
Yeah, there was a chance that they were looking at trying to get rid of them for a couple of different reasons, but the main one is that they're expensive to transport everywhere, not great for sustainability. So, they're looking at getting rid of them, but they've been talked into allowing them to stay for 2024.
Good, like it.
You happy with that?
Yes, I am happy with that. We cannot have people just driving off the road because their tyres are cold.
The wet weather test, still speaking of tyres, the wet weather test to reduce the spray was a complete and utter failure.
Wow.
They said it made no difference
whatsoever,
but they learnt plenty from it for the next edition, which is fine. I understand.
Good.
That's how engineering works. But it was like, the comment was like, it was somewhere along the lines of, it made no difference whatsoever, but we've learnt plenty from it, and we're hoping we should be able to produce something soon. So
that's fair.
Yeah, Stoffel Van Dorn was back in the car too.
Yep. Had his first FP1 session with the Aston.
No, it was
wet
weather.
Right?
It was wet weather test.
Sorry, I think he's due. I might have read that he's due for an FP1 session.
Vesti, who was the leading
Frederick Vesti,
was leading the F2 championship until this weekend. Crashed on the outlap. To the grid. So it wasn't in formation. Lost the championship. He's actually going to get a drive with, I think it's Mercedes. Actually, I think he's going to have a drive in a session this year.
Don't mind that.
Our man Jack Doohan.
11th to 1st.
A magnificent drive.
Fabulous drive.
Once again, he made life work really nicely for him.
Back-to-back wins. Is that back-to-back wins?
It is
he
back-to-back.
Won last week
It
as well?
is back-to-back wins, but this one was something else. The last one was very different. He qualified first, he controlled the race and ran through. You've got to have those under your belt to be considered a really great driver as well. But this one, he came from the clouds. Things were happening around him, and he sort of held his nerve. Pitted at the right time. He had a bit of a different strategy with a longer session with mediums at the start. And so nice to see. He's not really in the championship.
Could we see 3 Aussies on the grid?
I don't think it's this year. Next year, I think it's the year after. I think Ocon and Gasly would be. He's attached
there for a while.
He's attached to Alpine. Look, I think that team is willing to go and do all sorts of things.
Is it the 12-month anniversary today, or was it yesterday of Oscar's tweet?
I was nearly going to say they've got to have learnt a lesson. So if they're not going to put Doohan in a car next year, they need to have a really solid plan as to what his career looks like, and it needs to be something that is interesting enough for Doohan, because they're going to lose another talent.
Absolutely,
Are absolutely. I mean, they were kicking themselves at the time, which spoke volumes for how good they thought that Piastri was. But yeah, they were like they must be absolutely gutted now. I mean, their two drivers are going okay, but they like this is a talent that people are talking about. Not quite yet, but in the same sort of ideas of this guy knows what he's doing.
Yep.
He's one of the best rookies we've seen in a very long time.
Absolutely.
So. Yeah, so anyway, it's interesting. Any other news?
Rumours today that we are going to see the RB19 on the grid next year in its current form, but as an Alpha Tauri. So rumours are starting to kick around that the development that's happening is Alpha Tauri is developing the current chassis to become the RB19 in every sense of the word. And then because Red Bull are currently developing the RB20, that they will use the RB19 as their platform and they will essentially run, 4 RB19 forms next year. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's not possible. Due to the rules. You've got to develop and design your own parts, so I don't think it's like...
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think if you think about what could be a little bit of a strategic move for Dan being there, Dan will know all the ins and outs of the RB19 being the test driver, and that he would probably take that. Oh, no, go to Alpha Tauri, Dan. Don't turn that into the RB19 by telling them everything that's on it.
But Dan isn't a technical man.
No, I know, but he'll know.
He won't have a clue how that car works.
No, but he'll have an idea. He'll understand the aero
how it felt, but he won't have a clue on what's going on underneath the car or around the car.
Anyway, it's just as I said, rumours.
It's not possible. There's also rumours going around that 3 teams have blown the cost cap again.
Yes, which include Red Bull, Aston Martin, and possibly Mercedes, is what I've read.
And it's around personnel. There was a bit of push from some teams that Helmut Marko's wage wasn't part of the cost cap in the year that in 2022.
Yep.
And then since then, they've started looking into some other important people around teams, and they're starting to think that maybe that might have happened again. So, so those rumours are going. I don't believe either of them yet because it's not something that, I don't know, I feel like maybe would be hearing more about them. But, I mean, we see the penalties go to teams if they're copying cars too closely as it is.
Yep.
If Alpha Tauri were going to do it, they'd be even more closely monitoring it because of the relationship.
Yep. Now, another thing that's caught my attention in news and podcasts across the race weekends of late is the CapEx, which is your cap expenditure. Mm-hmm. You know about this?
Yep.
All right, so the way that it is work is that the teams have $145 million cap to spend on your team for 2021. That's when that started. And it was lowered to 140 in 2022, but then we've added an extra 1.2 million. So you're looking at about 100 and, you'd say about 145-ish. It's obviously a little bit lower, but it'd be a little bit more there. Anyway,
they realised inflation wasn't going to allow things to happen.
So that's what you've got to spend on your team and your expenses. So at the moment, you have got the likes of Williams and Alpine in particular, who are not happy with the amount of money that is coming into the CapEx. And James House has been very outspoken about this. On my staff now was very, very outspoken about it too. Because at the moment, the CapEx is still operating at a deficit for those lower teams. Before the cap come in, you had teams that had some really good financial figures with teams like Aston Martin, who recognised what was going to happen, spent a huge amount of money on facilities like wind tunnels and dynos and software, so that their infrastructure was up to speed. You've got other teams like Red Bull and Mercedes and Ferrari who have had that infrastructure for a very, very long time, and that's why they're successful. So you can understand why the likes of Williams and Alpine are sort of up in arms saying, hang on, you're capping us, but it's not actually working to level the playing field at the moment because you've got teams at the pointy end that have the infrastructure, the teams at the bottom don't.
Yep.
And it's going to take them a long time to catch up. So they're asking for a review of the CapEx, and they're asking for more money to go towards the lower teams to allow them to catch up so that the infrastructure the team has are an even playing field. They only need 5 teams to agree to this.
Yep.
in order to get off the ground. So I would expect to see that is going to get off the ground by the end of the year.
Yeah, so they're looking at two systems. They're looking at a system where it's similar to the development system, where depending on where you finish is the amount of money you can spend the next year.
Yep.
The other system that they're looking at, and that may come in anyway, but the other system that they're looking at is having an ability to apply for building facilities outside of the cap, which I think is completely reasonable.
I think so too. You can't have teams that have a dyno and have software and other teams that don't and then say this is a level playing field. Because it's not.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you think about who will agree to that, you'll have Williams agree to it, Alpine will, Haas will, you've got Alfa Romeo will agree to it as well.
Yep, you'd have to think so.
So you've got to just go and get someone like an Alpha Tauri.
They're not going to agree
to it. They're not.
Mind you,
but Red Bull might though.
I was going to say I'm not completely convinced that all the top teams are going to not agree to it anyway.
No, and that's
in the idea of health of the sport.
Well, that's exactly right. And if you think about, they've all been saying that we don't want Andretti into the sport because it's going to hinder everyone and dilute everything that's going on. You're right. If it's in the best interest of the sport, I could see Mercedes going, yeah, okay, that's fair enough.
Yep.
Red Bull came out and supported Alpine with their engines, so maybe Red Bull will jump in. So anyway, AlphaTauri is the one that you would you're not quite sure which way they're going to go, but I think if Red Bull forced their hand, or Red Bull could just come in themselves and just say, no, we will support it. So watch that space. There should be a little bit more money in the CapEx by end of year.
It will certainly be interesting. And the last one, engine freeze releases. So Renault, Alpine, we call it a Renault engine.
It's a Renault engine.
So Renault have realised that. Have we talked about this?
I think we did. Yep.
Have looked at the fact that we are down on speed and we can't really catch up because there's an engine freeze. What can we do about it? And so they're looking at, and teams seem fairly open towards this one. They're looking at actually opening up an ability for them to do some development.
Okay.
And so it's sort of broadly agreed upon that, look, this is probably good for the sport. And so how that looks is the challenge. So how do you let someone go and develop your engine just a little bit? You can't develop it to the point where you've overtaken everyone.
Yep.
Because then who knows how you're going to do that. So, it's a little bit of a tricky one, but they are looking at ways of trying to allow for engines to make a little bit of a catch-up, which is a watch this space as well.
Yep.
Is that it?
That's it for news.
Excellent. Summer break, what are you going to do?
It's
a winter break for us.
It is a winter break. Two things I'm going to do. I have not watched the 6 hours of Monza. I think it might even be 6 hours of Spa in the WAC. I haven't watched that. I'm really desperate to watch that, even though I already know the result.
Okay.
I still want to watch it. So watch that. What else am I going to watch that I really, really like watching? I'm definitely going to watch all the highlight packages for the season so far, which is something I like to do. So go all the way back to round 1 and just watch the, race minis. I think we get half an hour on our streaming service here down under. So I'm going to watch all of those. And I have F1 2023 on PlayStation now, so I am going to give that a crack and have a crack at Vegas.
Life is good. Oh, yeah, I'll be interested.
Stuff like that. Interesting to see how it goes. So anyway, lots to keep me busy.
Excellent.
Lots of motorsport.
Yeah, I'm just going to move studios and house. So
that's spirit.
Yep, that'll be it. So I'm pleased that we've managed to line that up with the break in Formula One. It seems to have worked out perfectly.
Do some work on our little race teams that we run.
Yes, that's right. And we'll be coming to you with, there'll be a fan frenzy coming out, but also we'll be coming to you with a couple of little short pods on some little topics that we want to discuss.
Summer break stuff.
And then we need to get underway our live fan frenzy.
Which
will be towards the end of the break.
Keep sending in some audio stuff too, even across the non-race weekends, because we will, if we are doing little mini episodes, we'll more than likely look at including some of those as well.
Absolutely. Until then, we'll speak to you all again soon.
Enjoy the summer break.
Goodbye now.